What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop. First off, I just want to say sorry that there was no videos last week. In real life has been really busy, and I just wanted to focus last week on getting content ready for this week and the weeks beyond so we don't have to worry about missing a week for some time. If you want to follow me to get up to date on all of these kind of announcements whenever they do happen, I highly recommend checking me out and following me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram because I will post all of the things that happen with my channel as it relates to the schedule there, and it's really the best way for me to contact you guys with that sort of news. So definitely follow me there, and without further ado, let's just get on to the video. So a couple weeks ago, I made a video talking about what it would be like if I was the leader of an evil Pokemon team. I really had a lot of fun making it, and I was able to come up with some cool ideas, and you guys really liked it, so I'm here today to bring you guys another Pokemon hypothetical. A main series Pokemon game was recently announced for the Switch back at E3, and even though we know nothing about it and it's still probably a couple years away, it is literally a dream come true for so many Pokemon fans who have wanted to see a main series Pokemon game on a home console. Since a main series Pokemon game on a home console is a dream come true for many, including myself, it got me thinking, what is my dream Pokemon game? This is really an interesting idea because since it's my dream Pokemon game, I can literally come up with any idea. And so today I decided to make this into a video to tell you guys what my dream Pokemon game would be like. Now, I tried to keep this as realistic as possible because I still want it to be within the realm of possibility, but there are a couple things that are sort of out there, but you know what, this is just a hypothetical, and it's just for fun, so why not? Lastly, I just want to reiterate that this is my dream Pokemon game. I'm not speaking for the Pokemon community as a whole or anything like that. I am personally speaking to my own interests, my own personal preferences as to what I would like to see in a Pokemon game. So without further ado, let's check it out. This is my dream Pokemon game. Now, the first part of my dream Pokemon game has actually already come true, and that's having a main series Pokemon game on a home console. Now, while I can sort of understand the controversy surrounding a main series Pokemon game being on a home console because they've always been on handhelds up to this point, and the developers have stated that Pokemon is a handheld franchise and it remains on handheld consoles because of what the franchise represents, I'm here to tell you that keeping main series Pokemon on a handheld console just because it's a handheld console is kind of stupid, and it's severely limiting to the Pokemon franchise. Now, I get the mobile aspects of this reasoning with the whole trading and battling and playing with your friends. I totally get that part, but honestly, keeping Pokemon on a handheld system at this point, there's nothing more for Pokemon to do on handhelds because it's already done everything it can do. It's already become as powerful as it can become. It already looks as good as it can look on handhelds, and home consoles, particularly the Switch, can offer so much more. Now, whether or not you personally want a main series Pokemon game on a home console, you cannot deny that having Pokemon in full HD, having a big, huge open world to explore in the Pokemon world would be amazing, and this is something that can be afforded by a home console. The reason that the Switch in this situation is perfect is because it is the best of both worlds. It offers the power of a home console that can give us the big, beautiful, open world HD experience that we've wanted in Pokemon for so long. However, it does not compromise the portability because the Switch is just as portable as any 3DS. So with that being said, my dream Pokemon game is on a home console, so the fact that that is actually going to be happening with the Switch is very encouraging. Getting back on track, however, one of the most important things with any Pokemon game is the region, and for my dream Pokemon game, I would want it to be set in a region that has a northwestern feel, full of nature and mountains and lots of geography similar to the Johto and the Sinnoh regions. I really like these two regions for their landscape and their nature. They're very mountainous, they're very rugged, they have some snowy areas to them, and overall, that is just kind of my preference when it comes to geography and landscapes and whatnot. So if I had to choose my ideal Pokemon game, my region would be something akin to those two regions. Another super important thing that comes with any Pokemon game is the Pokemon themselves. And while I'm not going to speak to the individual Pokemon or the Pokedex that I would have in my region, I will say that my dream Pokemon game would have a Pokedex that featured pre-evolutions or evolutions of previous Pokemon. The reason why I say this is because I just love the concept. It brings new light to older Pokemon, and while we have seen that sort of thing happen with Mega Evolutions and Alola forms, I don't think it quite captures the magic the way adding a pre-evolution or an evolution does to a previous Pokemon. Now, if I were to do this for my dream Pokemon game, I would do it along the lines of how Sinnoh did it, where they really just blew it wide open and added a ton of evolutions and pre-evolutions to previous Pokemon. Another thing I would do is allow these pre-evolutions, these baby Pokemon, to be caught in the early routes of the game so you can evolve them into their previously known evolved counterparts. For example, how cool would it be if you could find an Elekid or a Magby or a Munchlax in one of the early routes of the game so you could have access to Snorlax, Electabuzz, Electivire, Magmortar, all of those great Pokemon later in the game. It would be really cool, and that is the sort of thing that I would like to see in my dream Pokemon game. Now, as a follow-up to the whole Pokemon thing, another thing I would like to see in my dream Pokemon game are tons of references / appearances to previous generations and characters of those generations. Now, I'm going to make another analogy to Sinnoh because apparently I like that region and that generation a lot more than I thought I did. The fact that you could run into people like Professor Oak, Jasmine from Johto, and even in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, also part of the 4th generation, you could run into Sinnoh gym leaders such as Crasher Wake. I think being able to run into previous characters from previous games really creates a sort of living and breathing Pokemon world. The generations and the regions are no longer isolated areas and locations when this sort of thing is allowed to happen. And in my dream Pokemon game, we would have lots of cameos and appearances by previous characters and a lot of references to other generations just to interconnect the entire Pokemon world that much more and have it feel like a real live, living, breathing, connected thing. Now, arguably the biggest and most important thing of my personal dream Pokemon game is the story. I would want a captivating, fulfilling, and very rich story in a Pokemon game, the likes of which we have never seen in a Pokemon game. Now, Pokemon games, since they are more obviously directed towards children, haven't really had a huge focus on story. However, in recent generations such as Sun and Moon, we have seen an increase in the complexity and the quality, frankly, of the story, and my dream Pokemon game would continue that to a umpteenth degree. In my dream Pokemon game, the concept of the Ultra Wormholes and the multiverse theory that we've recently seen in Pokemon would be completely exploded and broken open, and we would learn all of the intricacies, the details, and frankly everything that this fascinating concept has to offer. It would go something like this. The multiverse theory and Ultra Space and Ultra Wormholes would be the focus of research for the evil team, the professor, and basically you as the player would be finding more about this concept as you went along. In the climax to this story, you yourself would be going through an Ultra Wormhole. However, you wouldn't just end up in Ultra Space. You would, however, end up in actual regions and different points in time, similar to how Annabelle ended up in the region of Sun and Moon, even though she was originally from the world of Hoenn in Pokemon Emerald. In my dream Pokemon game, you would be able to use these wormholes to travel to each of the 7 regions that we have up to this point, which would allow you to do essentially what has been talked about for a long time in the Pokemon community, which is have a game where we could go to all 7 regions. Now, there is a caveat to this because, like I said, I wanted to keep this concept as realistic as possible, and the way I am going to do that is by limiting the amount of exploration that you get to do in each region. Since you are essentially time traveling and going through a wormhole to a different dimension, you will not be able to explore the entirety of each region, and instead will be taken to a specific point in a specific area in that region, which you will then be able to explore to a certain extent. The really fascinating idea I have for this concept is connecting the tasks and the events that take place in each of these regions you travel to the actual games where these regions were first featured. So for example, let's say you travel to Unova in this game through the Ultra Wormhole. Well, you would transfer back to a time when the Dream Yard, for instance, was fully functional and wasn't destroyed. However, while you were there, the event of the Dream Yard getting destroyed actually happened. So when you go back and play Pokemon Black and White, you see the destroyed Dream Yard, you actually know how that Dream Yard got destroyed, and it was because of the events of this game that the Dream Yard got destroyed. So in essence, the events of this game directly affect and essentially create the events of all the other previous games. I think this is something that would be absolutely phenomenal, because not only would it give us the dream that we've all had of having a game where you could go to all of the regions, it would also create a really cool instance that would factor into this whole multiverse, multiple dimensions and universes timeline mumbo jumbo hullapalooza that we've got going on with the Pokemon franchise, and it would just, like I said, it would create a sense of interconnectivity with not only the Pokemon world, but the timeline as a whole that would just be utterly beautiful and fascinating to play through. Now, if you thought we were done there, no, because there are still a couple of great things that I would like to add to my dream Pokemon game, and one of them has to do with the post game. Now, me personally, as well as a lot of other people, would think that our dream Pokemon game would have to do with being able to travel to another region in the post game. However, since I was able to come up with this really cool idea of going to the different regions in the main series through time travel and interdimensional travel, the post game of my dream Pokemon game would actually be something akin to Fire Red and Leaf Green, where they went to the Sevi Islands. The post game of my dream Pokemon game would involve being able to go to a new area that offers a lot of explorability, it offers some new story elements, and basically just offers a new area to go to. I think that's the biggest thing for me personally with any post game, is allowing new areas to explore and adding story elements into those areas for an expanded gameplay experience. Finally, the last thing I would want for my dream Pokemon game is to be able to have access to capture and obtain all of the Pokemon in the Pokédex between the two versions of the game. Pokemon has been getting really good at this. For example, in Generation 6, you could capture all of the Pokemon between just the Generation 6 games, X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And I think that was really good. However, I would love it if we went back to the original days of Red and Blue, essentially, and where we were able to capture all of the Pokemon in the Pokédex in just the two games. However, this time, it's obviously going to be a lot more Pokemon than it was in Red and Blue. And being able to capture and obtain all of the Pokemon obviously includes all of the Pokemon, so I'm talking starters and legendaries as well. I would really like to see certain challenges and side quests that you could do in order to obtain rarer Pokemon like the starters, for example. I really liked it in Heart Gold and Soul Silver when you were able to obtain Kanto and Hoenn starters, like for example, after you beat Red, you could meet Steven Stone at Silphco and he would give you one of the Hoenn starters. Stuff like that is just really awesome, and I think they could really do a lot of cool stuff with that, where you could have certain side quests or certain tasks you had to accomplish, and then you were rewarded for those tasks and side quests with starter Pokemon. In my dream Pokemon game, you would be able to encounter and obtain every single one of the starters through methods like this, where you had to complete a certain task or do a certain thing or a side quest or something like that, and then you could be rewarded with a starter. It would be the perfect scenario because it would allow you to actually obtain all of the starters without having to trade, but it would still provide and preserve the rarity of these Pokemon. Finally, when it comes to the legendaries, I would like to see something akin to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where they just literally blew the top off of the legendaries and allowed you to capture a ton in the game. Now, I'm not saying that literally every legendary mythical Pokemon will be able to be captured in this game, because obviously you gotta reserve some for events. However, I would like to see something where once you beat the game, once the post-game starts, there is an influx of legendary Pokemon that are attracted to the region for some reason, and essentially they all become roaming Pokemon. So things such as the legendary birds, the legendary dogs, just having basically all of the legendary trios come to the region and all be roaming Pokemon, I think would be amazing, because once again, it would add a lot of playability to the games, and the legendary Pokemon would actually be made legendary, because once again, you'd have to hunt them out and really track them down in order to catch them. I would also like to see the bigger mascot legendaries like Lugia, Ho-Oh, Groudon, Kyogre, Dialga, Palkia, etc. make an appearance. However, I wouldn't want them to appear in a mirage spot, quote unquote, like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I would instead like to see them to appear in particular areas throughout the region that carry some sort of significance, and I think you could really expand on the story a lot more in the post-game when it comes to explaining why all of the Legendaries have gathered together in this region. I think there could be a really cool backstory about that, and it would just create an even more awesome experience when it comes to being able to capture the Legendaries if you had a story to go alongside them. And there you go, that is my dream Pokemon game in a nutshell. I am so unbelievably excited to see what this Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch has to offer, because it is personally something that I have been hoping and wishing for since I probably was under 10 years old. So the fact that it's happening, I am just so excited for, and I can't wait to see what actually ends up happening. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and let me know down in the comments below what you thought of my dream Pokemon game, and definitely let me know what your dream Pokemon game would be like as well. I think this is a topic that we as Pokemon fans can really have a lot of fun with, so please let me know your thoughts and ideas for your own dream game in the comments below. And if you are a fellow YouTuber, I'm not really intending this to be a tag video, but if you have any interest in making a video like this yourself, talking about your own dream Pokemon game, you are more than welcome to do so. As always, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe because I upload great Pokemon content every Tuesday and Saturday. Once again, be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for channel updates and just cool and funny posts in general. Make sure to check out my Patreon for some exclusive content as well. And once again, with all of that being said, I will be back with another video soon. And until then, as always, I will smell you guys later.